Welcome all to the SnailTrail4x4 Podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how fantastic Lexus 450s are, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and germs, my name is Tyler, and joining me here in the newly renovated, not really renovated, just kind of actually like did something now, studio for SnailTrail4x4 is Mr. Jimmy 450 Jet. 450 Jet, how are you, buddy?
There's no such thing as Jimmy 450 Jet yet, but I'm doing well, thank you.
Well, there's a Jeep and Jimmy apparently.
Yeah, I got a shirt that says it behind me. I was actually thinking about that because the recording studio is looking good. By the way, thank you. It's I like the way that you assembled the table and have stuff over there. I saw some of the photos on Instagram, but it actually doesn't do it justice. It looks way better in person.
It does look a lot better in person. You can actually like see what's all there. But
it's not in boxes.
Exactly, right? I was a little concerned, though, because while putting that table together, there's a tag down on the tempered glass shelf on the bottom that says weight limit 70 pounds. So I don't know if that's glass. I don't know if that's for the glass or for the table itself, but there's more than 70 pounds on there. 100 pounds on there right now?
Yeah. I think it's for the glass.
I would assume so. So yeah, we'll see. I'm going to avoid putting any more stuff on it for now.
Got it. Smart.
Yeah.
I was thinking because we should do, you know how like some people do his and hers stickers on the back of their vehicles?
Oh, yeah.
You know, where they have like, you know, whatever, you know, SnailTrail4x4 on her side and Wheeling Wine and Whiskey on his side or whatever.
Okay.
We should make a his and hers with our shirts, like behind us with the Jeep and Jimmy and Ford Yoda.
But where we record at and put it up behind us?
To put them on the wall behind us or something.
Yeah. I thought about that. I thought about hanging it just to add a little bit of sound dampening to the room and the walls here. I thought about hanging them up and I was like, I'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
I would imagine we're going to be required, I believe it was in a contract we signed with Kevin Poole, that we have to wear these to at least one event. So,
all right. As long as we get to make him a shirt that he has to wear.
Ooh, that'd be cute. I drive Priuses.
Something. We can figure out something for him. I don't know. Might be, maybe a samurai thing or I don't know. Well, I'm sure
we'll have to figure something out for him.
Yeah. I was talking to B. Murphy, our the man behind the mics here for the most part.
Yeah. The super producer for SnailTrail.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And we were working on. So I'm working on actually putting a bunch of our podcasts up on YouTube.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so him and I were kind of going back and forth trying to design the thumbnail that kind of would be in the background. Because it's going to, since like episode 7 or something, we haven't done videos.
Nope.
And so we've got 200-ish episodes that aren't going to have any video in the background. And so I was trying to figure out a good way to make sort of the same background, same title, and then the episode title would give me space that I would be able to fit it in and make it work. And, because that will be changing. And in the meantime, while we were doing that, I think we came up with a really legit, t-shirt idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was because he was just goofing around playing with something I didn't like it so much for the thumbnail, but I was like, dude, that would be a legit t-shirt right there. And so, we might already have the next, one figured out for whenever we do those,
the t-shirt stuff.
Yeah, the t-shirt stuff. I also had another person write in, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on your name, but he said, why are you pushing yourself to try to figure it out monthly? Why don't you just do it quarterly? And I'm like, dude, this is why we have people out there that want to help us out.
People that are smarter than us.
Yeah. That's actually a smart idea. Why am I trying to do it monthly? Yeah. I should just do it, do it, put it pre-orders, do the sales, and then start figuring out the next design within months.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
So we might now already kind of have 2 ideas in the books. So that's cool.
Yeah, that'll be neat. We also have, what was I going to say? I did some research on the tools the trail toolkits.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Boxo, of course, has had their tool roll,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And they just added a trail toolkit that would have trail tools, and then you can add on the tool roll as well, because the trail kit doesn't come with like the wrenches and the sockets and everything. I'm like,
weird.
that's weird.
Yeah.
But everything all together is $770.
Whoa. How many tools are in it?
I want to say it's around 100, 120. Something like that.
Quite a bit, actually.
I want to say it's around that. I know the tool roll is like 65 tools, and then the trail kit. Actually, I don't think there's 60 tools in the trail kit. But I'm not impressed with the quality of the tools that they're using.
Yeah,
so.
and one of the things that I liked about, or that we're trying to figure out for our kit, is that we're trying to streamline the tools, right? Like the whole crescent pass-through setup that we're using covers short sockets, deep sockets, metric sockets, standard sockets, and torque sockets.
All in 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 10 sockets.
10 sockets.
10 sockets, you get all those different sets. Yeah.
That goes from like 1/4 inch or 10 millimeter.
10 millimeter, 3/8.
3/8 to 19 and 3/4.
Yep, 19 millimeter, 3/4. Yep.
Then, so if you need smaller or larger, we'll probably have to get your own kind of things, but we're going to provide them the pass-throughs with the tang so that they can just use normal sockets.
Exactly. So there'll be the adapters to go from a pass-through to a normal 1/4 or 3/8 or 1/2 drive sockets. So that should be really neat. I did get to use my trail toolkit a couple of times now.
Oh, have you?
Oh,
cool.
And the first time I needed to use it, I realized I need a Pitman arm socket. So a 1 1/4 inch. So that's a specialty item that's going to depend on your vehicle. So I need to add a 1 1/4 inch socket to my trail toolkit, my personal one. And then
or a big crescent wrench.
Or a big crescent wrench, which I did have.
Adjustable wrench.
Adjustable, yeah. Which I did have. So, but somebody else had a 1 1/4 socket, so we just used that. But the other thing that I needed was the 10 millimeter. And since we don't have those socket trays yet from Lee, I was digging through the bag trying to find the 10, and I just gave up trying to find it, and I used my father-in-law's 10 millimeter socket.
Oh, bummer.
But
how embarrassing.
I know, it was kind of embarrassing. I had this nice bag with all these tools in it. But the drill hammer, the 3-pound drill hammer, that got a lot of use this last weekend.
Oh, I bet.
So,
this last weekend or the weekend that you're out on Slick Rock?
This last weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know about this.
Well, it got some use out on Slick Rock too. I think that's my most used tool is those drill hammers.
Probably.
Like, that's what I always use for.
Yeah. I need to pull my toolkit apart and throw in this toolkit so I can take it out this upcoming weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I go now wheeling with both toolkits, my normal one and the trail toolkit that we're kind of testing and making sure we have all the right stuff for.
That's not a bad idea. I think I actually have another bag. I could pull that off.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I've been doing, but
because then you can use our toolkit, and then whenever there's a tool that you need, you have it.
Go do your normal one.
You go to your normal one and then move it over.
Yeah.
And then maybe in a matter of months, we can figure, well, not anymore because wheeling season's kind of over.
No, it's not.
Well,
wheeling season's just beginning,
rock crawling
Jimmy.
season's kind of over here.
Okay, that's fair.
In a matter of months, we could sort of figure out what other tools might need to be added or what other tools we should advise people to add.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Exactly. So, that's coming to a good spot here very shortly. We've already had a couple people reach out asking for if they can purchase one of the trail kits without a bag, which is great. So we'll have the pricing and everything figured out for those by the end of October here.
Okay.
And so, look for, listen for, keep your ear holes open for pricing info for the trail toolkits. And hopefully we'll have those ready to go here by the end of October.
Sweet.
So also by the end of October, you need to be signed up for the
gift box tier.
Good job. Da, 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 da.
Yes, because on Halloween night, after I put the mini assistant to bed,
and you start getting a sugar high,
and I start going through her candy, figuring out what I want to eat. I'm going to shut down that option for you guys to move in there. Speaking of moving in there, We have a few people that have actually edited their tiers and have moved up into the 20 box tier.
Nice.
Sergio Rodriguez.
Woot woot.
Yes. Samuel Lewis.
Nice.
And
Lewis.
One of those Ranger guys, Lenny LePage.
He's the fucking Ranger guy.
Yeah, he is the Ranger guy.
Oh, that's funny.
So sweet, 3 guys moving up. So I really appreciate that, people. And if you do want to move up into that $20 tier, make sure you do it by the end of the month because, like I said, it's going to be closing down.
Yeah.
So you got like a week and a half.
I know Lenny will be able to use a lot of the stuff we're going to be including in Tyler's box in April.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
how do you know this?
Because of the theme that we've already talked about for April's box.
Yeah.
So
do you know he needs these things?
I don't know that he needs them, but everybody who
works on their vehicle,
takes part in this theme, needs these parts, in my opinion.
Sure. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Oh, and the word that I was trying to think of last time about the October box, and I was like, it's something that you use, but you get rid of after you're done using it, or it's used up.
Yeah.
Consumable. That's what I was trying to think of.
That's what this now November box is. Speaking of that, we did get word that the last item is getting shipped to us on the 10th of November.
Correct. Yeah, so, it should have an ETA on our doorstep November 10.
Yes. So we will as soon as my goal is to get everything literally boxed up and ready to go. So as soon as those come in, I'm just throwing them in the boxes and sealing them up and sending them out the door.
Cool. So ideally everybody should have their gift boxes by November 17th.
In theory,
roughly.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. There is, speaking of November 17th, I guess, which is really November 20th. There's a Tacoma Powered is doing a meetup November 20th out in Benicia.
Yeah. At Banff.
Mm-hmm. So,
Bay Area Metal Fab.
Correct. Yeah. Bay Area Metal Fab. So, I'll be out there. Are you going?
I probably.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know why I wouldn't. When is that compared to Thanksgiving?
It's the weekend before.
Then I'll probably be out there.
Yeah, I should be too. Weekend before Thanksgiving is not a problem. The weekend after Thanksgiving is a problem.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's I found it funny because they sent an email out to us because we're air quote vendors with them, right? And they said, yeah, we're not really going to be promoting this. We're not going to, there's limited space. There's not a lot of parking. We're not going to try to get so many people. It's more of just going to be this get together and hang out thing.
Yeah.
And then they've been like, it's all over their social media,
blasting it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wrote Juan I saw it on Tacoma or Forerunner Powered, and I wrote him and I said, I thought you guys weren't promoting this.
Yeah.
He's like, well, we're not putting the paid advertising behind it like we used to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I'm like, oh.
Okay.
So instead of 500 people, because the first time they met up, they had 200-ish people.
Yeah.
Second time they met up, they had 500-ish people. So instead of that 500-ish people with paid promotion, now you're going to get 450 people without paid promotion.
Exactly.
So if you are going to go out there, I would highly suggest going early so you can get a parking spot.
Yeah. It's going to be crowded for sure.
For sure.
So yeah, that's coming up. Then there was one other event that I was going to be doing between now and then. I don't remember what it is though. So we'll bring it up later.
When you remember.
When I remember. We'll be in the middle of talking about our weekend this weekend, and I'll be like, oh yeah, hey, this is what it was. So anyways, we got that. Not the gift box tier. The giveaway tier for this month is 2 gift boxes. So whoever will have 2 winners, whoever wins those, you'll be getting those 2 gift boxes around that same timeline that everybody else is getting their gift boxes.
Yes.
So we'll have 2 people with a chance that are not in the gift box tier and in the gift box tier, I guess, to win some extra boxes.
Absolutely.
Cool. So along with the patron stuff, we also have some voicemails.
Oh, sweet.
And at least 2 of them are from patrons.
Oh, okay. Oh man, I already think I know where this is going.
Uh-oh.
Is one of them from Lenny LePage?
I don't think so. I didn't save his phone number from last time.
Telling us how he has a Ranger F250.
Oh, that's right. We never got into that. So yeah, apparently, well, I don't know. We'll see if this is one of the calls is from him.
Because they did that. There was some clarification on the Facebook page, so
correct.
We can talk if that voicemail does not come up. We can talk about it afterwards.
Okay, cool. So the first one here is from our favorite Land Rover person.
Yeah, I just skipped that one.
Okay. Yeah. So the second one then is from an unknown phone number.
All right.
And here we go.
So Jimmy was asking about Halloween costumes, and I think if he really wants to dress as something scary.
Silence is the scariest thing.
Right.
Oh, bummer. Did it really? Is it skipping out?
Yeah. It sounds like his phone skipped out. It sounds like he was driving somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, he'll have to call back.
Yes, please let me know what's scary.
What is.
I think 7 slots are scary. So
you know what I think is scary? Reed dressing up as a stripper.
Yes.
Did you get that email?
I did. Yeah, I saw it. I didn't know how to respond.
No, you did. Yeah. So apparently our Sacramento stripper is Reed, which makes sense now that we saw.
Now that he connected the dots for us.
Exactly.
For American Stripping Co.
Yep.
The powder coating place that I use.
Yeah. All right. So now over to one of our Land Rover people. He actually has been dealing a lot with Land Cruiser stuff recently.
He has. Yes.
So we may have to get him a Land Cruiser Dawn t-shirt. So anyways, let's see what he has to say.
Gentlemen, I hope you can hear me over all the wind noise here. I'm on my way up to Fordyce listening to Snail Trail, and I can't help but think you're just too damn young. Did you not realize that the Ranger was a trim package on full-size Fords before it was ever a separate little mini truck model? Also, that thing that looked like a CD but bigger was called a laser disc. And that was a 33 RPM record, those giant things that your parents all had. Come on, guys, get with the program. I'm not saying you're dumb. You're just ignorant, that's all.
That's funny.
That's great.
Is age an ignorancy?
I think so.
With age, could you become ignorant? Yeah. Is there something there?
Yeah.
I have a record player.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you a DJ on the side or what?
No, we have a few records and sort of starting a slow collection of some records, and
okay,
not for value, but we just appreciate listening to full albums through instead of like one songs, here and there.
Yeah,
because especially I feel like a lot of the older albums were meant to be played through in complete, succession. So not just like, oh, I really like this song, I'll listen to that one song.
Okay.
And nowadays it seems like artists just throw out singles. Just here's a single, here's a single, here's a single, and they don't tell the story like an album does. So so we have, we've got a record, and we've got some Frank Sinatra, Beach Boys, some Janis Joplin, some Fleetwood Mac, some of these older stuff for my generation. I
don't know who any of those are that you just mentioned. So.
Are you serious?
No, I'm kidding.
Wow. But yeah, Laserdisc. I totally blanked on that. Yeah, that's that big one that looks like the record player. What was the other? Oh, the trim package.
The trim package. Yeah.
Do we have another message from somebody that
we do have another one from
might
Dawn.
talk about this? Oh, from Dawn?
Yep.
Oh, geez.
So there's nothing from Lenny.
Okay.
So do we want to listen to Dawn's?
Yeah, well, no, let's talk about the trim package first. Yeah, so we did learn that the Ranger was a trim package and came with, and I'm guessing it's an off-road trim package.
Yeah.
That came, you can get it applied to many different types of Fords out there. So you could have kind
of like a TRD Pro or a TRD
or just
Trail.
TRD, right?
TRD,
it's like TRD. So you could have the TRD Sport, you could have the TRD Pro, you could have the TRD Off Road, the limited TRD, and they could go into, now they're putting the TRDs into RAV4s, and they're putting TRDs into Priuses and all these other Toyotas out there. So now that someone has clarified that for us, it makes more sense.
Yes. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So, and apparently they stopped doing the Ranger trim models like in the early 80s, I believe people were saying.
Maybe, yeah.
So
I wouldn't know.
It was either 83 or 86 that they did the first Ranger mini truck.
Oh.
So cool. Dawn called back, I think, the next day. So my guess is, or maybe a couple days later. So It was at 5 a.m. when he called. So I'm wondering if he was on his way down from Fordyce.
Maybe.
So let's see what he had to say here.
I'd just like to apologize on Jimmy's behalf for episode 238 to all of the Ford, Chevrolet, and Australians listening. He did not mean to say a Ford El Camino. I'm sure he didn't mean that.
Did I say that?
I don't know. If you did.
Yeah, that's silly. Oops. The Ford El Camino.
Oh, that's funny.
Ford Ranchero.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, that was a slip.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, though, Charles Locke did message us.
Yes, he did.
And he said some of the worst words I think I've ever heard in my life.
I love these words. I think they're great.
Then
We need to put this on a t-shirt, okay? Speaking of t-shirts.
Yeah? Well, then why don't you say it?
He said, technically, Tyler was right.
Yes.
So, but I think technically you were also right.
I think so. Because it's funny because he sent us photos of the like original Utes, and they were all one body panel, body style.
It's essentially, I don't want to say unibody, but it's
kind of.
It's not a cab and a truck bed split.
Right.
The truck bed and the cab are all one body panel, one full thing.
Like a Ford El Camino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to get more hate calls. And so, and he said, but technically everybody just calls trucks Utes nowadays.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. But he also was saying that SUVs are kind of a Ute, wasn't he?
Kind of. I mean, yeah, it's essentially
it's like a wagon Ute or a truck Ute or So yeah, I don't.
Like the old station wagons would be considered a Ute, and those are just early model SUVs, pretty much. So.
And he even said in the email, because he knows I like Mighty Car Mods, is that their little K truck that they have is technically a Ute.
Yeah.
So it's like these. So pretty any utility-ish vehicle is a Ute.
Yeah.
So the 4Runner is a Ute.
Yeah. I agree. I think I'd rather call it a 4Runner, but
yeah. Don't want to put it in under that umbrella.
No, I think that they just use Ute instead of saying truck, because a lot of people in the States will call a 4Runner a truck or a Jeep a truck. They're like, oh yeah, I worked on my truck this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you worked on a Jeep or a 4Runner. Like that's not a truck.
Yeah.
And so I think the Australians kind of use Ute as synonymous with any kind of built up utility vehicle.
Yeah,
so.
Probably.
Cool. Love all the feedback from everybody. So thank you for calling in and writing in. It's always fun hearing from you guys. So do we want to do a couple of reviews, or do you have a lot to cover from your weekend?
I don't have a terrible amount of things to cover from my weekend. But I know that you had a fun day out there at Prairie City. So, I mean, do you have a lot to cover?
And not really. I mean, it was an interesting day. So
then let's do a few reviews.
Okay. Why are we reading reviews, Jimmy? Why do we like reviews?
Well, we like reviews because it's one of the best ways to help grow the podcast. The more reviews that continuously stream in, a lot of podcasting apps see that as people are engaged and enjoy the podcast and are actually giving back to it. And so then they promote it out to other people for suggested listens.
Yep.
Another reason that you guys like reviews is because once we get to 350 reviews, we're giving out a swag pack, and we're going to be giving out swag packs at 350 reviews, 400 reviews, 450 reviews. And once we get to 500 reviews, we're giving away a winch.
Nice. I've heard that there was a rumor going around that the 350 swag pack is going to come with a Jeep and Jimmy t-shirt.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. We'll see who wins.
Right.
They might want it.
Oh, that's funny. So this review that we're going to be reading today is going to be a series of them. This first one is from 605 Fozzie. It says, Dad wanted me to do this.
Didn't we read this one already?
I don't think so.
Well, we read one similar.
We've read another one that was from a little kid. I don't think this is a little kid. It says, my dad has always been a four-wheeling guy, starting with his 82 Hilux, and now has a second-gen Tacoma with aftermarket bumpers, but no winch.
Oh.
So he wanted me to do this because he listens to the podcast almost every time he can at work and loves it.
Awesome.
And I assume because he wants a winch for his Tacoma. Next one is from another 605 tuna no crust.
That's his wife.
I'm guessing it's because it says husband suggestion. My husband said I should rate and review your podcast because he really likes it and thinks it's the world's best podcast ever and listens to it every chance he gets.
Awesome.
So thank you to whoever is making their whole family write in and give reviews here. That's great. We love it. The next one and last one for today is from Rick C., who is 760 Wheelers. He says, best Toyota podcast, the absolute best Toyota podcast on the internet. I am a hardcore Jeep guy who now owns a 1986 Toyota short bed 4x4. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
I'm glad we can help everybody waste their money.
Yes. I'm glad we can help you move into the superior package.
Exactly, right? Congratulations on your 86 Toyota short bed. It should be a lot of fun. They're like Legos in those years. So you can just kind of piece them together with a ton of different parts, and all the research has been done to make them super capable rigs. So
yeah, they're and they have a good square body style, those ones. So they're fun.
Mm-hmm. So cool. That does it for the reviews for today. Thank you guys. We always love, like I said earlier, we love hearing from you. We love the reviews. We love the feedback. If you have any negative feedback, let us know that too. And then we will essentially take it. And what we'll do is we will write it down on a memo, a little note, and then put it in an envelope and ship it to the Caribbeans. And then where we have a guy named Hank that hangs out there and burns all the mail that comes to him. So, yeah.
That's pretty much what I thought you were going to say. So we were going to write it down on a note, and then we'd use it as fire starter when we were up in the mountains.
Yeah, we're going to use it as kindling with all of our paper straws we collect.
Yes. Perfect.
Oh, man. So speaking of being up in the mountains and fire and kindling, we had a really nice storm roll through here the past couple days.
We got some rain.
And you sent me an interesting statistic that was like Sacramento had the longest dry spell.
Yeah.
Since 1880 or something like that.
1890.
But it rained like a few weeks ago. It seems like, from the limited research that I've done. Okay. And this was a statistic that I saw off of like the news. Okay. But what it sounds like is they don't count it as raining until it gets to 1/10 of an inch. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Or significant, like, you can actually see these drops or something. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, so we haven't had rain in Sacramento since March 17th.
Yeah.
Of this year.
Yeah.
And it was like 210 days or something.
210, 212, somewhere around there.
That we haven't had any significant measurable amount of rain come through the Sacramento area. Yeah.
And I think the record said that that hadn't happened, or the old record hadn't been surpassed since it was set in like 1880, something like that.
1880, 1890
and it was 194 days.
Yes.
So we surpassed it by like 20% or 10% almost.
I know. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, we just beat it by a day. Yay. Yeah. No, we beat it for like 20 days.
Yeah. So... but we got a storm that came through.
We did, and we have another storm coming through.
We have a big storm coming through. It's going to be raining for like the next week and a half, 2 weeks.
Hopefully. We need it, and I want it.
Yeah. The fun part to this storm coming through is that we might be up on the Rubicon during this storm coming through.
Yes, we might.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah, we've gotten a lucky invitation to stay on some private property up there. Mm-hmm. And therefore we can camp overnight because there's no camping allowed up on the Rubicon currently. Mm-hmm. You can drive it, but you can't camp out there. And so we're going to head out there. You're heading out Friday.
I'm heading out Friday, correct? Yep.
And I'm probably going to be coming in late Friday.
Okay. Cool. Well, you have some nice party lights.
Yep.
So should be no problem.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about it. I know the trail fairly well. Mm-hmm. I think the hardest part is just going to be how wet things might be.
Yeah, that's my main concern. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. If they're talking about possibly getting snow over the weekend up there. Yeah. And so if we do get snow, then we'll just be coming out Wentworth Springs rather than going out the bowl.
No, so I'm going to go out the bowl still.
But you don't have a winch.
I got RPMs.
Okay. We'll see how that works.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be a little slippery going up that granite ball or down.
Yeah, I've been in there before when it's icy, and it's interesting.
I bet.
You just kind of go and hold on.
Or I just wait until noon.
Yeah, that's true.
It might thaw.
It does thaw out pretty quickly because of the sun hitting the granite and warming up. So
yeah. But there's talks also about how this the snow might stick for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. They already got anywhere between 6 inches and a foot, depending on elevation, up through Tahoe from this last storm that came through a couple days ago of snow. So we'll see if it stays cold enough and if we get continued storms coming through to keep it there.
Fingers crossed. I mean, yeah, we need it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm really excited because I just put on my 40-inch Patagonias.
Yes, you did.
The Milestar Patagonias I got from Will, and I put them on, and I wanted to get them on before Skills Day. And then if I wasn't able to get them on for that, then I was like, I definitely want to get them on before the Rubicon run.
Right.
So I can try them out in the rocks. And now it's looking like I might get to try them in rocks and snow all in one trip.
Maybe, yeah. We'll see. I don't know how much snow is going to fall, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not... from looking at the weather right now, it looks like it's not going to get below 40 at night, supposedly.
Really?
So
that'd be nice.
We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so far with the Milestar Patagonias, definitely... way better on road than the IROX, which is that's like the no duh statement of it, right? But yeah, with apparently my IROX were not balancing properly, and they're the radials, they're not the bias ply IROX.
Interesting.
So because remember how I always had the vibration around 70-75 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Most of it was due to my pinion bearing was out and gone pretty much. So everything was just moving around in the rear end. But even after I put in and redid the whole rear end there, I was still getting a slight vibration at 70 to 75, and it would like come and go. And with the Patagonias on there, no vibration whatsoever.
Interesting.
So my IROX were not balancing properly, even with the balancing beads in there.
You made me second guess myself and wonder if my pinion bearing might be going out on Bobcat.
I thought that we redid your rear pinion.
We changed the whole third member.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, that solves that, I guess.
Yeah.
So, nope, that one still vibrates.
Yeah. Interesting. But yeah, I can do 70, 75 smooth as glass on the freeway.
That's awesome.
Really, really nice. Like the way that Kermit drives on the road, I would totally drive him out to Moab right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's driving really nicely.
There's some passes on that. You might have to watch your temp.
Yeah, maybe. I haven't really been having too many temp issues. Every single time I've had temperature issues, I would come home, and when I park it in the driveway, there would be a tiny, tiny little puddle of coolant under my radiator on the driveway. And I'm like, what? And so I look in the drain plug for the radiator, it would leak out of there. Huh. And I was like, So I tightened it, and it would just stop leaking. And then my next trip out, I would come back and park, and it would be leaking again. So I'd tighten it some more. So I don't know if like the plastic drain plug keeps heating, expanding, and contracting, and it has to get worn in and worked in. But ever since I've been coming back from trips and not having a coolant puddle under the 4Runner, I haven't really been having too many temperature issues.
Maybe you should just JB weld it closed.
That'd be nice. Yeah. And then just pull the radiator hose next time whenever I need to dump it. Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, the 4Runner's running awesome right now, except that I don't really have a muffler in there at the moment.
No? Was it straight pipe?
No, not really.
It was just cut off?
Oh man. So where was I? What trip was I on? I went up to Slick Rock, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if I told this story. As I was going up to Slick Rock, I could tell right around Angel's Camp on my way up, the exhaust started making a different noise, a different sound.
Okay.
And it was just getting louder. And I was like, what is going on?
Oh, you said this, that there's a hole in it.
Yeah, there's a hole about the size of a small hole, like a small watermelon.
Bigger. Yeah.
And so that was kind of on my to-do list to redo the exhaust from the Y flange back so that I can get it to be a little quiet now, because it sounds like it's just there's nothing on it after the catalytic pretty much. And so, I just didn't get the flanges and gaskets in time, but I went to a local muffler shop in Sacramento. Super cool guys, by the way. Muffler Express. If you need any exhaust stuff done in Sacramento, go check them out. I walked up and I was just like, hey, I have a really strange, I think it would be a really strange request compared to what your normal customers are looking for. I just need a pipe 2¼ inch diameter bent for me and bent to fit my current Y flange. And then I need a Y flange to get up to weld up to it. And I want to do all the welding and everything myself, put it all together. And they were like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so here's what's going. I need to pass the referee, my 3/4 swap with the referee. In order to do that, I need to take from my crossover pipe in the Y flange where the two manifolds come together, the Y flange there to go out to the O2 sensors in the catalytic. I need to redo all that because I need to move everything up towards the engine about 1.5 feet. And it needs to be 2¼ pipe because right now I'm using 2.5 inch and they don't want that. They want 2¼ He goes, okay, so what do you need? I was like, I just need the pipe bent because I don't have a pipe bender and I don't know anybody with dies for 2¼ And he goes, show me what you're talking about. So I took him out to my rig and I was like, this pipe right here, I just need something bent in sort of the same bend, get it close. With 2¼ piping. And then he goes, do you need it? Like, how long do you need it? I was like, make it out of like a 4-foot section of pipe or 3 foot, whatever you have laying around. And then I'm going to cut it all off and cut it to the length that I need to be. And then I'll weld all my flanges on and everything. And he goes, okay. And so he went and got the tech and the tech comes out and he goes, oh yeah, we can do that. Here, take this. And he gave me like this tiny little bar, a little piece of metal. He goes, just bend that to somewhat of the degree you're looking to get in the bend. So I went out and crawled under the 4Runner and made this like bend in this little metal rod.
Okay.
Gave it to him. I was like, here. And he goes, okay, cool. And so he takes it over to the machine and bends up a 2¼ pipe and then puts the little metal rod over it. And he goes, we can go a little more. And he does a little more and puts the metal rod over it again. He goes, okay. He pulls it off. He goes, does that look good? I was like, that looks great. I was like, do you happen to have the Y flange for this? He goes, yeah, it looks like you have the 3.0 Y flange on there. Is that right? And I was like, yeah. He goes, that's a 2.5 inch. And I was like, oh yeah. And he goes, okay, yeah, no problem. So he got me the Y flange for it. And then he goes, now you're going to be putting this pipe on that, right? Do you have any adapters or upsizes or anything? I was like, no. And he goes, okay, cool. So he just grabbed the pipe and put it on the mandrel
and squeezed it.
No, it flared it out.
Oh,
because the flange was for 2.5 and the pipe is a 2¼
got it.
So
cool.
He just put it on the mandrel, flared it out to fit in there. And he goes, all right, here you go. And I was like, cool. How much do I owe you? And he goes, $40. Does that sound fair? I was like, whatever, sounds good to me.
Wow.
So I did that. And then I was like, hey, another question. While we're here, what do you guys, I want to talk to you about mufflers. I know nothing about mufflers. So the muffler I have in there right now is a Flowmaster. And I don't know if I need a new one because it doesn't work anymore. And he goes, what do you mean it doesn't work? Did the baffles fall or come apart in there or something? And I was like, not really. I mean, I'm pretty sure they are kind of apart, but really the whole thing just fell apart. And he goes, what do you mean it fell apart? I was like, it fell apart. He goes, he's like, hold on. He goes, show me. And so I took him out and he kind of crawls under the 4Runner real quick and he just starts laughing really hard because the whole like bottom side of the muffler is gone.
Yeah. And
you could see up into the muffler and see the baffles, and the baffles are barely welded in anymore. So they're like rattling around inside the muffler and everything. And he goes, okay. And he goes, okay, I got it. And so we go back inside and he starts showing me some options of different stuff. And he goes, that's one of the issues with Flowmaster mufflers is that the baffles inside, they just tend to not weld them properly.
Wow. Okay.
So over time, the baffles inside Flowmaster mufflers fall off inside, and then they sit in there and rattle around and create a hell of a lot of noise.
Yes.
And he goes, that's probably what happened. You probably had a baffle rip loose, which started the breaking of your muffler, and then everything else just started falling apart after that.
Interesting.
And I was like,
okay,
interesting. That's good to know. So he goes, so we can get you a new Flowmaster if you want. And I was like, nope, no thanks. I'll go with something else. So we started talking about MagnaFlow and some of the different stuff that they do with their mufflers. And he goes, what are you trying to achieve with a muffler? He goes, you could just theoretically straight pipe it. And I was like, yeah, I don't really know if I want it straight piped. Like, I want to be able to take a little bit longer trips. Like I want to be able to drive down to Johnson Valley if I want to drive down to Johnson Valley. Right now with the way the 4Runner is set up, and I really don't want to take it more than like 4 hours to a trail. And so I want it to be a little bit quieter, but I still want that deep tone that it has right now. He goes, definitely let's get you a MagnaFlow. And he goes, there's these different options here and here and here. And I was like, okay, cool. And we're looking at it. And he goes, I was like, these are all stainless. I was like, I don't have the skills to weld stainless. So if we get one of these, I'm going to have to come back and bring it to you. And would you guys be willing to weld it? How much are we looking at to do that? He goes, oh, we just MIG weld all of these and it works just fine. And I was like, oh, okay, if you say so. So I was starting to look at him. And he goes, we've been getting a lot of customers lately that are telling us that they just want their car straight piped. So we cut off their mufflers and then we have nothing to do with them. They're perfectly good mufflers. They're almost new. But we have a stockpile in the back of used mufflers. Do you want one of those? And I was like, I mean, if it'll help you get rid of them and you've been saving them for people like me that don't really care too much about it. I was like, yeah, let's look at what you got. And so he took me back to the back and showed me this pile of mufflers that they've been cutting off people's cars.
Okay.
And he was like, okay, so here's this one. And we ended up getting one that is a smaller package. It almost looks like one of the old Cherry Bomb mufflers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like, that's perfect. We can keep it as small package as possible. And it doesn't have any baffles in the way that blocks the airflow. It's a straight through, but then it has baffles all around the exterior of it.
Oh, interesting.
So it should help muffle the sound, but not change the notes, the tone of the exhaust, right? So I was like, cool. So I'm all set up now. I've got all the flanges, the gaskets. I've got the pipe. I've got the O2 sensors, the O2 bungs, and the muffler. So now I'm kind of all set to put it all together. So that'll be my project after we get back from Rubicon to put that together. And I think that's the last piece I need to do in order to get the referee done.
Cool.
So that'll
exciting.
be fun. Yeah, that'll be really nice to finally get done and have checked off the list. And yeah, should be a good time once I get that. So
sweet. Yeah, I still need to take Bobcat to get smogged. And I'm not too worried about it. I just trying to find the time is the hard part.
Yeah.
For me. So I'm probably going to be towing Bobcat to the Rubicon.
Okay.
Just because I don't want to deal with the legalities of driving it. So I'll tow it up to the chalet or whatever, and then I'll wheel in from there. So
cool.
That's my plan.
Nice. Along with all of that, we also had the Metal Cloak Skills Day this last weekend that I got to go out to and be a part of.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. We did it. It was out at Prairie City, and they had a phenomenal turnout.
Really?
Yeah.
Good.
They limited it to the pre-signups to 100 rigs. And so they said they sold out the pre-signup. So it went live on the website, and they sold out within a week, I think. They said normally it'll take 1 to 2 months for the signups, the registrations to sell out, or to not really sell out because I don't think they charge anything, but for the registrations to fill up. And it took them a week to fill up the registrations for the Skills Day this time. And it's great. They go through and they teach people the basics of your vehicles, right? So how to put it in 4-wheel drive, and then where tire placement goes. And they run you through a few of the obstacles at Prairie City. And then they do a recovery demonstration, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did
they just pull a Jeep up a hill?
No, they actually had somebody going through one of the obstacles there and got stuck.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so the guy going through the obstacle didn't have his lockers on. And so he kind of got stuck, and the spotter goes, okay, are your lockers on? The guy goes, no, you never told me to put them on. And they're like, oh, well, it's too late now. You're stuck. So they just left his rig there. And then after lunch, they did the recovery training, and search and rescue came over, and one of the search and rescue guys kind of led the recovery demonstration.
Okay.
And it was interesting to me because the way they had the rig lined up, I was like, I wouldn't pull them that way in my head.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm not running this demo. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And they were like, okay, the big thing is you want to communicate and keep communication. They had 3 people, one on either side of the rig, and the person in front that was kind of running everything, right? And he goes, yeah, so the big thing is you want to have communication and make sure that you have sights, because, you know, one person on one side may not be able to see what the other person are seeing, and vice versa, right? So you guys need to be communicating and talking about, hey, this might happen here, this might happen here, and go and make sure that everybody's continues talking, right? So that you can get the vehicle out without damaging the vehicle more. And as they're saying this, they're like, okay, so they're asking, like, okay, where do you see any concerns on your side of the vehicle? Where do you see any concerns on your side of the vehicle? I have a couple concerns up here. So let's figure out how do we get across these concerns by what's the best way to pull this vehicle out. And so they're talking about it. And they're concerned about a rock on the driver's side that might come up and hit the slider, right? And they're like, okay, we need to pull him straight more so that he doesn't hit his slider on this rock before we start pulling him and turning him to get him up out of the obstacle. And I'm like, but if you pull him straight forward, you're going to pull his axle right into a rock.
Yeah.
Like his front axle.
Okay.
I was like, what's more important here, the axle or the slider?
Right.
I was like, the slider's designed and meant to hit rocks. And so I'm sitting here watching this. I'm like, you guys should just start pulling him sideways, like turning him now. Like, well, there's no point to pull him forwards. Like, I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, the big thing is we need to make sure that everybody talks and figures out a plan to keep from more damage happening to the vehicle. And then they pull him forwards after looking at everything and be like, oh, there's a rock right here in front of the vehicle too. And talking about, you know, which one might be a higher priority. And they decided the one on the side of the vehicle was going to be a higher priority. And so they just pulled him and dragged his whole front axle, hit the rock, pulled him up and over the rock with using the winch, and just dragged him, the whole front axle, up and over the rock until he came down on the other side of it. And I was like, face palm. I was like, come on, guys. But anyways, it was a really fun event. Metal Cloak does a great event. They brought out the CTI trailer and let people test their flex and their travel. And I didn't get Kermit up there because the whole time they had the trailer open for use, there was like a line of 20 to 30 vehicles.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't want to wait around that long. But I got to hang out with a bunch of people I hadn't seen since Sierra Trek. And it was a fun day. So I got to talk a lot of radios, talk to people about the importance of trail communications and how there's different levels. And, you know, depending, you may not give a shit about having emergency communications. You just want to be able to talk to the people within 200 feet of you. And in that case, you should be doing this.
Right.
And so I talked to people about that and kind of the differences of that, and then showed off the Morphlate. And at the end of the day, I aired up a buddy from my club who was there volunteering. And after I aired him up, his friend was like, hey, can we get an air up too? So we aired them up. And then some random person came up and he goes, hey, are you offering air ups? So I aired up at 3 vehicles. Wow. At the end of the day. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even get to air down and go play at all. But yeah, we got to show off the Morphlate, which is nice. Go.
That works.
Yeah. But it was a lot of fun. So next year, they are going to be doing 3 skills days. So one in April, and then I'm not sure when the second one is, and their normal one in October. So April and October are their normal ones, and then they're going to be doing a third one in the kind of the middle of summer, which I think will be interesting because Prairie City in the middle of summer is not fun.
It's hot.
It's very hot. So we'll see how that goes. But they had such a big turnout, and it's been 2 years since they did a skills day that they're going to do 3 next year.
Dang, good for them. Yeah,
it should be really neat to see. So I need to get the secretary out to one of these events, either the Esprit de Force Safety Clinic or Metal Cloak Skills Day or something. So
I haven't been to the Skills Day. I think I actually went out there once to hang out for a little bit, but I didn't see what they were actually doing. But I think I like the Esprit de Force Safety Clinic one because they kind of you get to do, it seems like they put you in your vehicle and you get to do a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they do that. Do they do stuff like that, or do they just let people drive around and have fun? And then if you're having problems, they kind of help you?
That's more of kind of what it is. They put you in different groups based on skill levels. So there's A, B, and C skill level groups. And then they give you a card, and there's different stations you're supposed to go to throughout the day. Okay. There's like 20 stations.
Oh, wow.
And a bunch of those, each of those stations are vendors. So you're supposed to go through, and each vendor is supposed to have some kind of informational, educational talk that they're talking about. And so like Corva was there, Cal4 was there, the AirMed, the helicopter life flight was there. There was a guy there, Matt, who talks about, what are the different things you should have in your vehicle while you go off-roading to be prepared for different situations. Search and rescue was there. So it's a lot of these educational talks. So you go through and you get this card and all these stations signed off. And then all the obstacles are also different stations. And so different obstacles are rated for A, B, or C. Okay. And if you're in like the C group, you get to do all of them, whatever you want. If you're in the B group, you can do all except for this one. If you're in the A group, you only get these ones to do.
Sure.
And so they kind of leave it up to that group to go through and do. The 3 groups goes through and does all the obstacles, and they've got spotters and volunteers at all the obstacles. But in my opinion, from what I've heard and experienced from Skills Day, I think the Esprit de Force Safety Clinic does a lot more teaching, hands-on teaching of everything.
Yeah.
And every activity is very purposefully built around teaching one specific concept.
Right.
Whereas I think Skills Day is more of the spotters kind of teach you about your vehicle as you're doing these obstacles.
Got it.
So I guess it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. Metal Cloak does supply lunch for everybody. That's nice. So they had a Mexican food caterer out there, which was super, super good food.
Was it Sarah and Ryan?
No. Okay. Right. That'd be nice. But yeah, it was a great time. I had a lot of fun. Cool. The weather was great. It wasn't super hot. But it was sunny, and so it was a good day.
Nice. That sounds like fun. Yeah. So I was working on Samantha.
Nice.
Yeah.
How far did you get along?
We got quite far, and I'm not sure if as far as we got is the final solution, but we'll find out probably in the nearish future. But so we got the axle. Hustle Nuts came over on Saturday morning. And the main point of the day was to put the axle together and put it underneath the rig and start to figure out what I might need to do for the rear suspension.
Gotcha.
So buttoning the axle together took up probably the most amount of time because I had one hole that was off from when I was, when I did the paint marks, and everybody was like, why didn't you use the gasket? And I was like, yeah, that probably would have been smart, except I ordered gaskets and I can't find them. I still can't find them.
Oh no.
So I went to Toyota and bought a gasket to use.
As a template. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I used it in the third member. Put it in the third member. Right. And so it's, probably should have. So when we ended up, so the hole is off. So then I ended up using the gasket to figure out where the hole needed to be and what it needed to move to. Mm-hmm. And it was like a quarter of the way off at I don't know.
It's almost 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock-ish. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I used a Dremel, kind of dremeled it out and made the hole bigger in that direction, and then used a drill bit and drilled it out to make it all the way around. Okay. And then I'm trying something. We put a Healy coil into a Healy coil.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I did a bigger Healy coil, which is an M10 125, and then we put an M8 125 inside of it, and everything worked. It all worked, and it held well, and it's all down, and I mean, it seems to be able to be tight.
Nice.
We'll see how that holds up over time.
Yeah.
Also, one of the other holes I needed to drill it out because the stud was hitting the wall. And so I just drilled it out a little bit and made that. And so my concern was that, I'm having bolts on the bottom. 2 of the holes had to be drilled out. One hole had to be drilled out one had the Healy coil. It's like, am I really weakening the strength of this third member because things aren't, perfectly lining up, or the holes are now bigger, the Healy coils are in it. And so I think I'm going to build or make this, husband and I were kind of talking about it, because there's a few free bolts in the e-locker setup. And so I might build this structural thing that attaches the e-locker to the axle housing. Yeah. And acts as a skid plate. Okay. And so that will take, and then since it's outside of the e-locker and outside of the third member and away from the center, the leverage point on that is going to be super strong, right? Because you're weaker, the third member is weaker inside, like with rotational strength. Okay. And then so the further outside it is, the more leverage it has for strength. Okay. Right. And so it's just going to make things even stronger, and it'll give me a protective skid plate for that third, or for the e-locker mechanism. Okay. The e-locker mechanisms are pretty up high though, aren't they? Aren't they kind of protected by the ribbing of the kind of member? It's at like midpoint on the locker, or on the axle housing. Okay. It's kind of up high, but I mean, I think people actually make some skid plates for them. I do need to look into that. But I figured I could probably just build a bracket that goes straight down and makes it strong. But I figured, well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well turn it into a skid plate too. Yeah. So that was kind of, I'm going to build this bracket just to make things stronger. Yeah. Get some dual use out of it while you're there. And might as well build it into the skid plate. Yeah, exactly. Dual use. While it's at it. So, and then the axle shafts and everything slid together fine. It was funny because when we slid the axle shafts in, there was a gap between the bearing and the housing. And we're like, what? Like, what is happening? Yeah. And really what it turns out to be is when the axles were pressed together, the like little cup section was further down and compressing the rubber a little bit farther. So then we're like, maybe we can pull it over. And so we just threw the bolts in, and it like easily slid right over where it needed to be. Nice. So that worked out really well. So then added the axle shafts. So I put chrome ollie axle shafts in there, which are beefy compared to the stock ones. And then I did a disc brake kit on it as well. And so new discs and new calipers and new rotors and new pads and all that jazz on there. So yeah, the axle looks really good. Nice. Looks really good. So then we took it down and we slapped some, I have two 37s sitting in the corner. And so I slapped some 37s on it. And that were like, they're spares for Bobcat. Yeah. And slapped those on there and then slid it underneath the rear of the vehicle. And then from there, it was like, okay, what are we going to do? Yeah. Like, what's the game plan here? So I already had some things kind of mocked up. And then we put the 63s on the other side, because I had a 63 already set up on the passenger side. So we set the one up on the driver's side. And then we pushed the axle underneath it, and it was like, it was high. It was axle was high. The whole frame got high. Because the goal is to keep the frame right around 21 inches from belly height. Okay. At least that's the tentative goal. If it changes, if it goes up a little bit, I'm not too concerned with it. But the goal is kind of 21 inches for me. Okay. And it was not really possible to measure it exactly because we didn't change the front, but it went from something like at the rear, because the rear goes up right for around over the bed. It went from somewhere like 25 inches when it was sitting there flat and when the belly height was 21 inches, and then it raised up to like 31 inches when we put, and it is angled, right? But it raised it up quite a ways when we put the 63s under it. Okay. And so I was kind of like, oh man, like it raised it up a lot, and it's off the axle and the jack stand in the middle that was holding it. And so then we're like, okay, well, what about the Ford 56s that Sherpa loaned me? Like, how would those work? And it actually probably would work on the hangover, because there's a lot of, the 63s are long, and there's a lot of leaf spring that hangs out way behind, and those sliders, the liquid force sliders that I'm going to use are, way out the back they're like the end of it is at the very end of my frame right now.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. And so we were looking at, when we were looking at it with the 63s, we were considering like, okay, how much would we have to French? How much would we have to cut in? Can we figure this out? Like, is it like, if it went up 5 inches, am I going to have to French 5 inches? That's more than my frame, you know? So like, that's not going to work, you know? And I mean, yeah, it was at the angle, but you know, we're just trying to look at it. So then we've started, the Ford 56s are a little bit shorter, and they're shorter height wise. There's less arc on them, and there was less length on them, and that would actually work a little better for the slider section. And so we kind of looked at those, and then like I think we've even put those on, and it just didn't, like, it was kind of the same. Didn't really change it that much.
Okay.
So then I was like, I've got a silly idea. What if we grab the Tundra leaf springs that have more arc, are slightly shorter, and we do spring under? Yeah. And for the most part, it's freaking perfect.
Really?
Yeah. It's sitting right at 21 inches. It's the slider, the liquid force slider is all the way at the rear, but the center pin for that, for the leaf springs is like pretty much right in the middle of the slider.
Okay.
Had to move the front spring, rough stuff front spring hanger a little bit in to make that work, but it's sitting there right where it needs to be.
Okay.
So it's,
and so is the liquid force sliders, with it sitting this way, you're just going to weld them to the frame. You're not going to French them in.
Yeah. Right now, absolutely. For the most part, nothing needs to be Frenched in.
Nice.
Not even the front hangers, sitting as is. So I'm not sure if I want to stick with spring under. It seems to work. It's kind of cool to say, they're not Chevy 63s. They're actually Tundras. You know, I think that's kind of fun. Like, I'm keeping it Toyota or whatever. But yeah. I don't know. I sent a photo to George at Unleashed 4x4, and I said, what do you think? And he's like, it's stupid. Don't do it. You know, and I'm like, why? And he's like, you just have more things lower to the ground. Yeah. And I said, I get that. You know, and it is. I mean, it's crazy, you know, how, like, there's not a lot of stuff. Like, there's not a ton of material underneath the axle shaft, but the whole leaf springs are way lower, right? So like you driving up to a rock, now your leaf springs are one of the low hanging fruit. Yep. And this is all in the rear that we're talking about. So I'm not sure. I'll go put this, like, the 63s back on there, figure out a way to set it up to see if I can French it in and how far it would set up, and then how far would that raise the vehicle with it above the axle, you know? But it's kind of interesting. It's interesting to play with. It's interesting to kind of figure out. I don't know many people that run spring under, and maybe there's a reason for that. But it kind of might be interesting to leave it to see how it performs, see what it does.
Well, spring under is a fairly common option for Baja stuff.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Because doing spring under, you know, helps with the axle wrap, and they're typically not worrying about having a lot of low hanging fruit on the vehicle. No, their big concern is whoops and going faster over the whoops as they can. So, but in rock crawling world, you know, you want to have everything under the vehicle as smooth and flat as possible, with nothing hanging as much as you can avoid it. And so by doing it that way, you're going to have the leaf springs are going to be lower. Your leaf spring brackets might be a little lower. Like the liquid force sliders are going to be lower in the back, which not really too big of a deal. But if you can find a way to, my big concern with that, it would not necessarily be the leaf springs. It would be the bolts for the U-bolts. And whatever bolts are sticking down below the leaf springs.
Well, so my goal, and I don't know, because I've never set it up this way, and I don't know if it's possible, but I would use square bolts, go over the leaf springs and go up from the bottom, and put the threads facing upwards, and then put the cap, which is pretty much and I might even have that part because I took it off. I did a U-bolt flip kit on Charlotte. Yeah. And so I might even just be able to pull that off and flip that over and then string it up. So there's nothing, I mean, you're going to have a
little bar,
3/8 or 5/8 bar hanging below the leaf springs.
Yeah. Which actually wouldn't be too bad in my opinion. I don't think so.
I think I might lose up travel because of that.
Yeah, you don't need up travel though.
Yeah. We tried to do some basic math of like, okay, if the leaf spring gets perfectly flat, and so we like put a tape measure from eyelet to eyelet, and it was like 7 inches of, it could go up for it to get flat.
Okay.
And then I said, okay, so when it gets like, how far is it going to get up from where it's sitting? And it was like 8 inches to the bump stop. I'm like, that's pretty much perfect.
Yeah.
Kinda, So, I don't know. I might just leave it to piss some people off, and
you should
and try it.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the worst because if I don't French anything and I just weld it to the bottom of the frame, it will make it easier if I choose to change it in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. I think you should just go with it.
Yeah. I don't,
in my opinion.
And what it is doing, the way it sits right now, it works really well.
Yeah.
Or it's like the layout of it's really good.
Mm-hmm. Weren't you going to try and put 40s on it or?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably will. I mean, so and that will raise it more.
You're going to go up another 1.5 inches or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then I thought, well, I could French that.
Yeah.
I could put those in and, that'll solve that problem too.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if I choose to change the rear suspension and I start Frenching things in now, it just makes it a pain in the butt to try to fix it in the future.
You've got to rebuild a frame in the future.
Yeah.
Then.
And if it goes up 1.5 inches, I'm not too concerned, for the tire size, know. I wanted to try to keep it low suspension wise. Mm-hmm. And so that's just more ground clearance in a way. So,
yeah.
But yeah, nice. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of, when I work through a problem, I found that I like to just throw spitball ideas and throw them out there, where Hustle Nuts was sitting there and he just was silent.
Yeah.
And he's thinking of everything through his head, and I'm like, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this?
Jimmy, shut up.
Yeah. And he's like, shut up. I'm thinking. There was once or twice I would say something and he would just sit there, totally silent. And then eventually like, I'm thinking, so just hold on, like, okay, I'm going to go get some chips or something.
Nice.
I think I went to the bathroom one time and I came back and he was still in like that thinker pose.
Mode, yeah.
Just like contemplating the different ones. And it was funny because I was like, what about these leaf springs? Or what about these leaf springs? And he's like, how many leaf springs do you have? I'm like, I've got
Do you want to see my collection?
You want to see? Because I had the Chevy 63s lined up next to the Tundras to see, and the Tundras were like 3 or 4 inches of arc higher, and they're like 1.5 to 2 inches shorter.
Okay.
From eyelet to eyelet, with the arc, right? And then I had the Ford 56s lined up next to the old Tacoma springs, to see what their difference was. And so it's kind of like, well, if this one doesn't work, maybe we can try this one. If this one doesn't work, then we can try this one, and then this one, and then this one. And I have your old first gen 4Runner like Deaver pack.
Oh yeah, the old Deaver packs. Yeah,
the one that's like 12 or something leaves. Yeah, and I was like, that one would be interesting, and it would be a soft ride. But I wouldn't put that underneath the axle because it'd be like 8 inches or something hanging underneath. And that's another thing is I am only when we took the Tundra leaves had like 5 leaves in them, and one of them was an overload. Okay. And so we took the leaves apart and I just ditched the overload in the 2 small ones, and I'm running the 2 long ones right now. Yeah. So I might need to add another leaf in there, just to make it a little stronger. But right now, this just to keep things a little easier to move around and lighter weight. We just went with 2 leaves. So it really doesn't look like that much is hanging below the axle. Yeah. Because it's only 2 leaves that are maybe 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch thick. Yeah. So it's 1 to 1.5 inches below the axle. That's all that's hanging there.
Yeah. I mean, and that's
actually, that's not true. Sorry. Because then there's the leaf spring perch. Yeah. And that's another like 1 inch. Gotcha. So it's like 2 to 2.5 inches hanging down below the axle.
Yeah. I mean, you got to remember that your whole concept for the Samantha build is a low center of gravity. So you're doing some different and creative things in order to keep it low.
Right.
So ground clearance and hanging stuff up on rocks is going to be your biggest concern that you're going to have to work around with the entire rig, not just the rear suspension.
Sure.
So I think is keep it low, go with the low build, and then that way the problems you're having to solve once everything is kind of put together, the front and rear end, then you can kind of go look over the vehicle and say, okay, what's the low hanging stuff that will hang me up? Because that's what your main problem is going to be, wheeling this thing. And how do you fix those?
Right.
By adding either skid plates for different things or ramps, smooth surfaces to get up and over rocks and not have things catch on rocks. So I would say just keep it low, keep doing your low build and put that as the priority. And then once you kind of get everything together, then look at, what are your low hanging fruits here and how do you solve those?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that'll be, that's kind of the direction I was thinking as well. There are some concerns about how low the leaf spring might be. But I am also going to move the gas tank. I've considered, I'm going to take the gas tank's already out, but I'm going to move the spot that it is because the gas tank's one of the lowest, it hangs below the frame. Yeah. Right. And, so I'm going to move it and I'm going to put it back by the rear cross member at 90 degrees and it fits within it has 4 or 5 inches on each side of the frame rail. Yeah. So it fits fine in there. Yeah. And the bottom of the beds are already lifted a little higher. Granted, I need some room for, the tubes and whatnot to be able to fill it, but I'm going to be able to lift that gas tank up. Plus I'm doing a 2-inch body lift on the back half of the truck. And so I'm going to be able to lift that 2 more inches up. And so that, I think the gas tank's not even going to be an issue. I think you're going to be just fine with the gas tank there. And the other thing to think about on the low hanging fruit thing, JKs and JLs, the way their shocks are all mounted, they're mounted 4 inches below their axles. Yeah. And granted, they catch them up on everything, but if they're getting through trails, having their shock brackets being mounted 4 inches below their axle, you're going to be just fine with 2 inches below stuff hanging 2 inches below. So some of the concern though is kind of the approach, right? Because now my leaf spring's way low in front of my tire. Right. And so getting to that rock might be a little bit different or difficult. I'd have to slightly change my driving style. I wouldn't have to, I'd have to choose slightly different lines so that I could hit the rocks with my tires easier. But on the flip side, the leaf springs are going to be so low that they're going to act as drive shaft protection. Yeah. Because we've kind of rotated the axle up to see where it was going to be pointing. And it's it's going to be out of the way for the most part. Nice. No problems, no issues. Good. Yeah. So, it's just really interesting to sort of build a vehicle up like this. Yeah. I know that Hustle Nuts, when he was building his buggy, was like, I'm building a freaking vehicle from scratch, frame up and all. And he's even cutting it apart now with everything he's doing. But, it was funny because I was telling him, I'm like, I now somewhat grasp what you were talking about because I'm building a vehicle from the frame up, and modifying it and trying to figure out the best way to work and how, if I do X, is it going to affect Y, and just looking at all those things. It's funny because, he was like, how are you going to do your rear bumper? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, but that might affect how you're going to attach these sliders. I'm like, well, I need to figure out how to attach the sliders. First. And I'll adapt the bumper. I'll make a bumper that'll work. So, but it's kind of, his concerns are 5 steps ahead of where mine are. Which is good and bad in a way. He'll, if it's 5 steps ahead, he'll know how to solve things. And when he gets to that, where, I'm only concerned with, the one that's 1 step ahead of me for the most part. And I'll try to overcome that next problem when I get there. But and I'm stoked to have him, in the shop and helping me out because he's definitely making me think of different angles. But I don't know. I'm curious what people out there think of spring under as an option for a rock crawler. And please don't message me and say I should just link it, because I'm not. It's going to be leaf sprung. And so whether I should concern myself with spring under and trying to keep it low, and I really do think it's a matter of having it be 21 inches sprung over, or have it roughly be 23 inches sprung over. Because I think I could French a chunk of that in and figure that out.
What's Bobcat's frame rails at? The belly frames?
I don't remember. I think it's somewhere around 25.
Okay.
Maybe 26.
Okay.
Do you know what Kermit's is?
No. I have it in an Instagram post somewhere because I measured Kermit's and my dad's.
We could go measure it right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. Yeah. So, I mean, it would be like, if I keep it 21, I think it'll be like 5 inches lower than what Bobcat is. And, you know, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but we'll see. I think it's a fun experiment and a fun thing to try and play. No.
Yeah. Ignore the aliens coming through the headset. Yeah. So I think it's going to be fun. I think you're on the right path. I think that, you know, if you're looking at, like, I still think the whole point of the goal for you personally is the low center of gravity and using Toyota components to make a low COG build.
Yeah.
And if that means doing spring under, I think spring under is a great option for any type of off-roading because it really controls your axle wrap compared to spring over. The only downside is you just start catching things, but you're going to have that problem
anyway,
no matter what. So I don't think that's a big problem. I think catching your rear leaf springs is going to be one of the least of your issues wheeling this thing. Yeah. So possibly.
I don't know. I think it's just fun.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome, man. So I think that about does it for this episode.
Yeah.
We're going to have a fun weekend here. Hopefully we won't get hypothermia while we're out there. I'm going to bring an extension cable so that I can run my heated jacket off of my Jackery, which will be fun.
You can do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No. Can you go US? Because it runs off of USB-C and it charges USB-C but runs off of a barrel plug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I need to charge my batteries for that thing.
Yeah. So I did that. I also bought a heated blanket.
Did you?
To run off the Jackery at night. So
yeah, I think I'm going to set up the rooftop tent for a heated mattress pad or something to run off the cube.
Yeah. Anyways, it should be a fun weekend. I think it's going to be great no matter what. We're going to do the hike on Saturday for the original wagon road, the Georgetown to Lake Bigler wagon road. So that'll be a lot of fun on Saturday. And we're going to go check out a plane crash site on Friday before getting into the trail. So that'll be fun as well. And I just hope that it's not super, super rainy. I don't mind a little bit of rain here and there, but if it's like raining the entire weekend, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. My old man's like, he's all, you better be fucking prepared. Like, do you know what you're getting yourself into? I'm like, yes, I understand what I'm getting myself into.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, like, I'm going to bring extra food. I'm going to bring extra clothes, you know, like absolute worst case scenario. We hike out.
Yeah.
And we have to leave the rig there for a weekend or so.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe even worst case scenario, it stays there all winter. Yeah. You know, but I don't think
worst case scenario, we're going to break into John Arns' cabin and hang out there for a couple days.
Yeah. You know, and I'm with a bunch of other guys that are experienced wheelers and, you know, don't put my faith in a lot of them, you know, but I do know one of them can help me get out. John Arns.
Yeah. I don't know if John's going to be there. John Allen.
John Allen.
Yeah, John Allen.
The other John.
Yeah. So yeah, it should be a fun weekend. If we don't have an episode on Thursday, then we died.
Yes.
So come find us.
Deal.
All right, man. Anything else for this episode here?
No, I think that's about it.
Cool. Tune in on Monday. We're going to be checking in with a good buddy of ours that has set up shop in a new location with a much bigger shop that I think is going to be able to do some really cool stuff with his business. So we're going to be talking with him Stay tuned for Monday with Dimitri from Stellar Built.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you guys want to get a hold of us, have any feedback for us on this episode, want to leave us some voicemails, you can do that through a lot of different ways. You guys know how all those ways are. So Jimmy, do you have any final words for everybody out there? Any final words of encouragement?
Oh, encouragement?
I don't know. It can,
I was going to say snow wheeling.
Snow wheeling. Yay. Oh, is that your words? Okay, fine. And with that, my friends, keep crawling. Bro, I got a joke.
Do you?
It's actually from Stephanie again.
Okay.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
You ready?
It better be Halloween related.
It's a Stephanie joke. No. Well, kind of. We're going to say it is.
Okay.
So I just learned the other day that if you turn a canoe over, you can wear it as a Halloween hat
Okay.
because it's capsized.
Yeah. Not bad. Not bad. That's pretty good, actually.
I rely on other people to get my jokes.
Yeah, that's funny. How do you stop a monster from biting its nails?
I don't know.
You give it a box of screws.
I don't get it. A box of screws?
Yeah, so it won't eat its nails.
So it eats the screws?
Yeah.
Okay. If
You stop it from biting its nails by giving it screws.
Got it. Okay, now I got it. Oh, man. I'm really bad at this.